Bare necessity, but simple bare necessity. Bare necessity, but simple bare necessity.
Hey there, it's Bree Bear, and welcome to my TBR for the reading rush. That is my goal for the rest of this year. Is every readathon that I do, I want to be flexible enough with myself to allow myself to put a book down if it's not working for me and pick up something else. I'm very bad about this. I consistently try to push myself through the end of a book. Let's go ahead and get into the challenges and my TBR. Challenge number 1 is to read a book with a cover that matches the color of your birthstone. I am a diamond for my birthstone, so it's kind of been a struggle for some of us to decide what color that actually should be, because technically diamonds come in a lot of colors. They can be clear. Some people could look at them as holographic, like a silver holographic. Some people would consider it to be white. Or you can have something like a pink diamond or a blue diamond, right? So you have a lot of variety when it comes to diamonds. But I decided to interpret it based off of books that I was interested in that had some of these colors. So I ended up going with white, and for this I'm going to be reading Erased by Kai Sanbi. I could be pronouncing that wrong, I meant to look it up before, but it's been a long day. So this is a manga. It is not the shortest manga ever. It's 384 pages, I think. Yeah, 384 pages, so it's not the shortest manga, but because it is told with art, it's going to be a quick read. But I'm really interested in this. It's kind of a fantastical-ish, but I feel like it's going to be like more of like a speculative feeling contemporary. Like it's going to have more contemporary vibes than fantasy vibes, although it, it wouldn't be possible for this story to exist in our, actual world. It's kind of like, I would compare it to being similar to Orange, where I think it's going to be like that, where it's like, it's got magic in it, but it's more contemporary feeling. Challenge number 2 is to read a book that starts with the word "the." And this challenge took me a little bit to decide for sure. But then when I was looking through my Goodreads TBR of books that I don't own, I came across an anthology idea, and that is The Curiosities by Maggie Stiefvater, Tessa Gratton, and Brenna Jovanoff. And I am so excited. First of all, can we talk about how big this book is? Like, let's compare. Normal sized hardback versus this book. It's like huge, but it's like not thick, it's just tall. And I don't know if it's specific to the edition that I have or if they're all like that, which would make sense because there are annotations, but I don't know if that's every edition has the annotations like this. I don't know. But this is an anthology of fantasy stories. Basically, these 3 writers started emailing and they decided to create a blog where they kind of just did unedited stories, and these are some of those stories. But I'm really excited. I really want to get the second one as well, so I'm hoping that I love it. I believe that this is going to be a little bit more of the darker fantasy type stuff too. Challenge number 3 is to Challenge number 3 is to read a book that inspired a movie that you've already seen. So it took me a bit to decide on this one because there are so many. I am very nitpicky when it comes to films, because as a person who studied film and studies literature, it's very, very difficult for me to be impressed. It was made in the past and then they made like a continuation years later. Like, I grew up watching the movie not knowing that it was a book, and then they did the remakes and I've watched both of them, and they're not perfect, but they definitely are some of my favorite continuations. And I love this world and this idea of of this story so much. I think it was such a creative story, and I think the twist on it for the modern continuations was really well done as well. But the book is Jumanji by Chris Van Allsburg. I'm so excited. I did not know that this was a book until much more recently. It's a kid's book, so it's not going to take me very long at all to read. It's very, very short, very, very big font, and it's literally just text on one side, pictures on the other. But I'm very excited to read it. I would love to see what the original material is like in comparison to the remake, or in comparison to the adaptation. Obviously the continuation is very different in that it's a video game version and you go into the game rather than the game kind of like coming into the real world. At least for the first two films, where they've done this continuation. But I'm very excited to do a read of this. I think it was a really good idea to do because of how short it is, so that I can potentially, if all goes as planned, then I will be able to maybe even watch at least some of the movies with my family. My goal would be to do a rewatch of all three with my fam after reading. But who knows if that's what's going to happen. At the very least, I would like to at least watch like one of them with my family. But looking forward to this one. Challenge number 4 is to read the first book you touch. And I have not picked my book for this challenge, and I'm not going to pick it today. It's actually going to be during the readathon that I choose this book. And the reason for that is because I want this book to be my kind of mood read choice, where I really have the flexibility that I need to choose something to fill any gaps that I feel. So I have a wide variety of genres chosen, but I may feel a pull towards a specific genre that I don't know if I'll be able to get to, or that I don't have currently on my TBR. So I'm actually going to choose from my audiobooks for this. I'm gonna, whenever I get in the mood and I need an audiobook or I get in the mood to start another book and I'm not feeling what's on my TBR, whatever the case may be, I will download books from my Audible library onto my phone that sound interesting and that are something that I'm kind of in the mood for at the moment. Like, they sound good to me at that particular moment. Obviously, they sound interesting to me, or I wouldn't have downloaded them in the first place. But, or I wouldn't have added them to my library in the first place. But, I'll just download ones that I think fit my mood at the moment. And then I'll scroll and then touch one of them at random. I'll just scroll up and down at random. And then I'll touch one. And whatever one I touch and I open will be it that I choose. If that makes sense. I may alternatively do a pull it out of a jar situation, and like just shake it up and then touch, and then whichever paper I touch first, that's it. I may do it that way, but either way it's going to be my audiobook pick, and I'm not going to decide it until during the week. Challenge number 5 is to read a book entirely outside of your house. I know for a lot of people this is a challenge that isn't going to be feasible, and over on the Reading Rush site they did come out with a little post discussing that since they had made the prompts before, they didn't really think about it and think about changing them or anything like that until, you know, they heard some feedback and everything, and that they list a couple of ideas of ways that you can work around it, or make an alternate version of the prompt for your challenge. But for me, I am blessed enough to be able to go outside and read. However, it's going to be insanely hot next week, and the reality is I'm probably not going to be outside very much. I do have the beneficial element of the fact that I do my church's live streams, so I'll be leaving the house at least twice during the week to go to and from my church. And I also have the benefited amount of time where I sit there and wait for my dad to stop talking, so I can sneak in a little bit of reading during that time. But I still wanted to choose something short because like that's a limited amount of time and it's gonna be hot, and although I may be able to get some reading in through going over to my sister's house, stuff like that, it still is a little bit of a struggle, and I'm gonna be limited with, even when I'm with them, I don't get a ton of reading in. So I chose something short, and I also wanted to choose something that I would be able to whip out and get a little bit of extra reading in for any seconds that I'm outside of my house. So I chose an ebook, and that is going to be Broom Service by Morgana Best. This is the 5th book in the Sea Witch Cozy Mysteries series, which I thought that book 4 was the last one because they were like this little bind up and everything like that, but then I saw that there was going to be another one and I was like, oh, okay. Challenge number 6 is to read a book from a genre you want to read more of, or you've always wanted to read more of. I have a lot of contemporary and fantasy books, but I do have basically a book in every genre that I can think of and every genre that I'm interested in reading. However, there are some that I would like to have more of on my shelf, particularly like thrillers. I want to read more thriller and horror books, and poetry books. So I chose a poetry book. This is Pillow Thoughts by Courtney Pimpernel. This is the first one. There is 3. It is longer for a poetry collection. However, it definitely is more on the white space side on the pages. It's not like full pages. It's definitely more on the white space side of page percentage. Final challenge number 7 is to read a book that takes place on a different continent. For me, I have decided to reread 13 Little Blue Envelopes by Maureen Johnson. I'm so excited for this. I read this forever ago, y'all. It has been like a million years, it feels like. But this was like one of the like YA books that I read before I really was like into like and knew that YA was like what you called it, and like before these things had names and stuff, before booktube stuff like really made, before booktube was like fully established, you know, all of that stuff. But like I read this forever ago and I loved it. Now there are elements of this that I know I didn't like and definitely are going to be prominent to me now, and I'm very concerned with one particular element especially. But what I really am looking forward to in this book is re-experiencing the magic of backpacking through Europe and following these little envelopes, these little letters from her aunt without any clue as to where her aunt is taking her and all of that. It is a duology. This is book 1. The second one is really short in comparison. I will reread the second book at some point, but I think I'm going to wait until after the readathon. But who knows? Honestly, I could pick it up. I actually, let me grab it. Here's book 2. But I originally read these on my Nook back in the day, and I made a few notes in book 1. It wasn't the extensive kind of annotation that I do today, but I did make a few notes, and I realized that the other day when I was like sitting down and looking at my books. So I'm really excited to compare my notes from then to what my thoughts are now. Like, oh my god, it's gonna be so crazy. But this is an oldie. This is like 2005. I was gonna say 2008, but this is from 2005. With all of those books, And keep in mind that I haven't picked out my audiobook yet. My page total is 1,458 pages. Even if I chose an audiobook though that was like 350 pages, I'm still only reading like 250 pages a day. So realistically, I may be able to complete this TBR and pick up more books. I know. This video was longer than I intended for it to be. I always have this plan to sit down and like be brief and not ramble, and I suck at it. I suck at not rambling. I don't know why I expect myself to not ramble when I'm filming, because I ramble in real life. So I'm sorry for that. If it drives you nuts, it drives me nuts when I'm trying to edit. So if that makes you feel any better, I annoy myself too. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you very, very soon with my Reading Rush vlogs. Peace out, Bear Scouts.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your stress. I mean it, bare necessities. That's why a bear can rest at ease with just the bare necessities of life. Yeah, with just the bare necessities of life.